Good evening. Welcome to the inaugural annual meeting of the Chicago Economics Society. My name is Kevin Chang, and I'm the founding president of the Chicago Economics Society. Before we turn the floor to our honored guest, I would like to take a brief moment to introduce who we are and what we do. When people talk about the University of Chicago, economics comes to mind. As most of you know, the Department of Economics has been the birthplace of many innovative ideas in the field over the past century. Yet, there has never been a Chicago Alumni Association devoted to economics. But all that is going to change tonight. Because tonight we're here to inaugurate the first official Chicago Alumni Association in economics in the world, the Chicago Economic Society. The purpose of the society is to serve as a platform for Chicago alumni and friends interested in economics to exchange ideas, engage in rigorous discussions on many economic and related issues, meet old friends, and debate and disagree with one another all over again. We aspire to uphold the tradition started by Frank Knight, Milton Friedman, George Stigler, and Gary Becker. The very tradition of rigorous and innovative application of economic ideas to every single area of social sciences, including not only economics, but also sociology, political science, law, as well as our everyday lives. We hope to embrace all Chicago alumni interested in economics, as well as friends from any other educational background who are intellectually connected to the Chicago School of Economics, whether they agree, disagree, or a bit of both. Now, I would like to give the podium to Dr. Siddharth Tiwari, the director of the IMF Strategy Policy Review Department, and the inspiration behind the creation of this society. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Tiwari.
Most of you, I think our greatest achievement, as someone told me before this, was to pass through Professor Becker's course on Econ 301 with honorable marks. Someone else told me on their first test they got 1 mark out of 100, and they felt lucky because there were many who got none. But look, if there's one person in this room who needs no introduction, it's Gary Becker. He's been a force in the field of economics and applying rational price theory to human experiences. He's pioneered several new fields in economics, sociology, psychology, and he's been, for many of us, the face of Chicago throughout our lives. His achievements and honors are numerous. At an early stage, he got the John Bates Clark Award. He was awarded the National Medal of Science. 1992, the Nobel Prize in Economics. And more recently, the Presidential Medal of Honor, the highest civilian award that this country bestows on its citizens. With him is Ed Lazier, who also taught us when we were in Chicago. He's a labor economist. He has pioneered personnel economics, studying incentives, promotions, compensation, productivity. More recently, he's focused on culture and language. He's at Stanford University, previously taught at the Chicago School of Booth in Chicago. He served as the chairman of the President's Council of Economic Advisors for 3 years from 2006 to 2009. And he's the founding editor of the Journal of Labor Economics. Without much ado, I would hand over the mic to Ed. This conversation will last for 30 minutes, and then we will have questions and answers for another 30 minutes after that. Ed, please.
Thank you very much. was commenting that Gary still treats me as if I'm a first-year assistant professor at Chicago. So it's not really going to be much of a conversation. I'm going to ask Gary questions and let him answer, and then perhaps in the Q&A that follows, I may make a point or two. But other than that, I'm going to leave it to Gary for right now. So Gary, let me just start with the general theme. Most people accept that economic growth is the key to raising standards of living. And we know that there are many factors that are important in determining economic growth. Obviously, as the founder of human capital theory, that's probably the most critical in creating an environment for positive economic growth. Could you talk about how we are doing in terms of human capital, where we're going in the right direction, and where perhaps we're somewhat off track?
Yeah, well, thank you, and it's a pleasure for me to be here and address this group. And of course, I'm particularly pleased about the founding of this economic society. I think it could serve an extremely useful purpose, and I congratulate the important movers in this founding, and I hope it succeeds, and I expect it will succeed. And let me add to what has been said. You know, Chicago economics is associated with various points of view on particular areas. Some of them, they've always been controversial. Some of the controversies have died out. Chicago won some battles, lost some battles. I think it won more than it lost, but and there's still a controversy. The role of society is to be broad enough to encompass various points of view and to have debate and argumentation. That's how one proceeds in understanding economics. And since Eddie and I are here with that in mind, we're going to state some views. Maybe I'll state more because Eddie's going to defer in this situation. He has plenty of good views and strong views, and I even agree with some of them. But we're going to state our views, and we hope that we get provocative questions. I mean, that's Chicago style. I mean, just because we're professors and so on, and some of you are my students and any students, doesn't mean you shouldn't ask us, tell us, you're completely wrong. I love to hear that, because I'll say that in return, but I love to hear it. All right, so now with that out of the way, let me talk about the question. Yeah, obviously economic growth is extremely important. I mean, maybe, raising people out of poverty is the role of an economist. It's always been my belief. It motivated me in economics, still motivates me in economics. Now, as one thinks about economic growth, as Eddie said, there are a number of factors that are involved. Human capital, though, is extremely important. If you do any simple calculation of the importance of different forms of capital, just sort of an accounting calculation, human capital by far dominates. I mean, it's maybe 75% of all type capital, doing it on a cost basis or on a benefit basis. I don't care which method you take. Of course, they're all important, but in terms of sheer magnitude, human capital is of tremendous importance. Now, it's also important in the growth process, because particularly modern growth is basically information-based, knowledge-based, and that's what human capital deals with: how people acquire and produce knowledge, and how that then spreads through a system, an economic system, into the economy. So it's hard to separate the role of human capital in economic growth from the role of markets and the role of government and a variety of other forces. They interact a lot, but certainly in that interaction, if you don't give a lot of attention to human